Hi there. Have you ever used the zoom feature on Google Maps? When you zoom in, you can see details on the map you might otherwise miss. And when you zoom out, you get a better understanding of where you're at in relation to the rest of the city, state, country, and even the world. The Deep Bible Study Method encourages readers like you to approach the Bible like you would the zoom on a map. Yep, you heard me right. You can start by focusing on your current location, whether that be a verse, a passage, or a paragraph, and then you zoom in on the details. Once you get a clear picture, you can zoom out by reading the surrounding sentences and paragraphs. This helps you get a better understanding of your location relative to the bigger picture of the chapter, book, and even the whole Bible. The further you zoom out, the more you can see how the text fits into the Bible's unified story, and the more apparent the meaning of the text becomes. Earlier, we began our exploration with the book map, which helped us focus on the details of the book. Now with the Deep Chapter Map, we zoom in a bit to focus on the finer details of the text. In this video, I am going to take you step by step through how to complete a chapter map. Read the chapter. We recommend reading at least 3 different translations to uncover the richer, deeper meaning of the text. Consider first reading from a more literal translation like the ESV or NASB, and then read more of a thought-for-thought translation like the NIV or the NLT. And you can see that's exactly what I did here. I started with the ESV and I moved to the NIV. And then as a last step, you can read from a paraphrase like the Message. I don't usually do that. You can see that I also read from the BSB, which is more of a literal, the Amplified, which I really like because it kind of does a Greek or Hebrew word study for you right there in the text. And then I ended up with the New King James Version. The very first time you read the chapter, just read it. Don't mark or highlight it. After that, you can mark and highlight the text, and we have a comprehensive marking and highlighting program where we have symbols that you can use, you can draw, or you can do it digital. Be sure you check out the video on marking your text. Setting the scene. Now it is time to zoom in and ask the same questions about the chapter as you did the entire book. Here are some questions you can ask. What time period is it? Who rules the kingdom or empire? Are there any past events that are currently influencing the story? You'll see that 1 Corinthians 1, I set the scene. This is what I said. Paul was writing from Ephesus to the church in Corinth, which is a major Roman city full of worldliness. And Paul addressed reports, or he was addressing reports of division in the church and the church's high regard for the wisdom of man. So that is how I set the scene. Then we have your key people, places, and events. So what you're going to do is look for key people who played an influential role in the text you are reading. Maybe it was a person or a group of people. These are people also that you might want to go back later and do a character study on. Also, you should look for key places or events that the chapter focuses on, and you jot them down too. So for 1 Corinthians chapter 1, the Apostle Paul was a key person. Sosthenes, I just thought it was interesting. He was mentioned in the first verse, and he was possibly a synagogue leader in Corinth. Then you have Apollos, and I did some cross-referencing on Apollos, and what I discovered about him was that he was Jewish, he was an eloquent speaker, and he speaks with great fervor regarding Jesus, and I found references about him in Acts that gave me that information. And then the city is Corinth. That's the main city. The next section is key verses. You can write the key verses as you're reading through the chapter. I usually wait and do that at the end because the key verses end up being, for me, the verses that I spent the most time on cross-referencing, doing verse maps on. For me, the key verses in 1 Corinthians were verse 17, "For Christ did not send me to baptize, but to preach the gospel, and not with words of eloquent wisdom, lest the cross of Christ be emptied of power. The next thing we're going to talk about is themes. Look for the main themes in the chapter and go ahead and write those down. Remember, a theme is an idea, it's a lesson, or it's a message that's explored throughout the chapter. We looked at these for the book, but this is chapter specific. Themes can apply not only to specific people and events of the chapter, but they also express broader truths about the human experience that you'll find throughout the Bible. For me, I like to write the theme on the last day that I'm studying the chapter because it takes me a long time to really dig into the word and try to come out with a theme that I'm satisfied with. I really think about it a lot. One of the themes that really is repeated throughout Corinthians, like I mentioned earlier, is God's wisdom and his power versus man's wisdom and power. So the next thing is summary and key takeaways. At the end of each chapter, summarize its key truths in 5 sentences or less. And I mentioned to you in the book map video that I had a difficult time whittling down these key truths into 5 sentences or less. For me, there is so much truth. I mean, the word is full of truth, right? And to try to get that into 5 sentences is a definite challenge. Here are my summary and key takeaways. I'm not going to read all of them. You can zoom in and read them if you would like, but I'm going to focus on a couple of them. The first one is the church must not be divided by who their leader is. It isn't about the messenger, but the message. And this is picked up again in chapter 3. The next key truth is God intentionally chose the foolish, weak, and lowly in the world's eyes to reveal the foolishness of the wise, the weakness of the powerful, and the bankruptness of the rich. He did this so that the wise would not boast in their wisdom, the strong in their strength, and the wealthy in their riches. He did this so all people would boast in understanding and knowing him. Christ, the wisdom and power of God. If I had to have one sentence to summarize 1 Corinthians chapter 1, it would be Christ, the wisdom and power of God. As you can see, the chapter map helps you dive deep into the Word of God. It is a great way to summarize the chapter, and it's really, really nice to have this summary because you can go back later and read through it and know where you were at that time. I like to have fun with my map. I'm going to pop up a picture of my map. You can see that I fancied it up a bit. I used different colors so that I could easily see different thoughts, and I also drew some pictures. And I am not claiming to be an artist. I am far from it. I just really enjoy visuals, and these visuals help me summarize the key truths. Really, you can see praying hands and a Bible, and then my summary of the chapter.